What was something you did as a child that is now that funny story your parents tell? When I was a kid, I had one of those toy gavel that squeaked when you would hit something with it. One day, when I was about 4 or 5, I ran into the living room when my mom had a bunch of family and neighbors over. I hit the table with this toy 3 times, squeak squeak squeak, and said order order in the court. Everyone got silent and gave me their attention. I proudly exclaimed Peter Pan has a penis and promptly ran out of the room. My mom says the entire room was dying for a good 5 minutes. Thanks for coming to my TED Talk. As a toddler I never crawled like other kids. I just rolled around. I would lay down on my stomach and just roll. I've met a couple kids that definitely preferred rolling or wiggling over crawling. It's adorably funny. My family has a habit of wrapping presents in other boxes. A gift card in an old TV box. Clothes in a large shoe box. Whatever random gift in whatever random box. I was also a very little child who never even suspected that the people in my family are so full of malarkey. Cue little 5-year-old me opening up a present one Christmas, looking at my parents with disappointment written on my face, and, with all the feigned politeness a 5-year-old can muster, saying, I guess I could learn to like Hot Pockets. I don't remember the incident. No one can remember what was in the Hot Pockets box, but it's referred to at every birthday and Christmas. When puberty reared its ugly head, I started calling phone sex lines. First just the 800 numbers. The voices drove me crazy, but always asked for credit cards, so I got bored quickly. Then I discovered 900 numbers. Stupid teenage me used a fake name and just assumed when they sent the bill my parents should see the name of someone who didn't live there and toss the mail. Little did I know it was being charged directly to our telephone bill. Fast forward to next billing cycle and suddenly I'm being yelled at for a 1k plus phone bill. Over the years they typically like to bring it up in conversation when I'm introducing them to women I'm seeing. It's been 20 years and they've never let me live it down. My brother and I once built a road for our toy cars out of sliced sausage and jam. When I was young, like 2 or 3, I would walk around our neighborhood and walk in the neighbor's house and sit at their kitchen table until they came in and gave me a pudding cup. They didn't eat them, and would buy them exclusively for when I would come over. Despite the breaking in, I still wouldn't help myself to the food until it was offered. I was around 11 years old and stayed home from school because I was sick. I'm admittedly a huge hypochondriac. So what better to do on my day off than to hop on WebMD and find out why I'm so sick? After 5 minutes of research I had pinned it down to one thing that it absolutely had to be: ovarian cancer. I called up my mom, who's a nurse, and told her the devastating news. I was met with hysterical laughter. There I am sitting in bed heartbroken that my own mother is laughing at my inevitable demise. And that's the day that I found out that men don't get ovarian cancer. I wasn't expecting the ending. I was 4 when my parents suddenly heard me crying on the beach and running around, spooked. I was screaming the beast, the beast, the beast again and again. Honestly, my parents thought I had a heat stroke until they saw the really tiny crab, a bit over 2 inch, that was chasing me. It was running, following me around, probably proud to be able to scare such a big monster. Not my proudest moment. Crying on the beach. At around 3 years old, I got curious about my dog's food, so I sat myself down in front of her food bowl and just started stuffing my face with it. After a few minutes, my mom, struggling to keep a straight face, asked me if I would like to go with the rest of my family to get McDonald's or if I wanted to keep eating dog food. I looked at her, cheeks stuffed with dry dog food, and said, dog food. 18 years later, I still remember what dog food tastes like and still crave it occasionally because life's weird like that, though I have never actually eaten it again. Just for your information, the meat in dog food is just one small grade lower than human canned meat grade. They used to be the same until people figured out canned dog food used to be the exact same stuff and cheaper. When I was younger, my mom, my grandma and I went to get some ice cream. Being the unattentive little 3-year-old that I was, I let the ice cream fall. My mom bought me another cone, handed it to me carefully, and said, keep your eye on your ice cream, and I did. I face planted the ice cream. Ice cream. Back during the cyanide in Tunnel scare back in 1982, my older brother took me trick-or-treating on Halloween. Went something like this. Me, trick or treat, neighbor, gives me candy. Brother, now what do you say? Me, it better not have any cyanide in it. When I was 3 I woke up early Christmas morning and opened all of the gifts under the tree. My parents had to kind of guess who got what because they were all jumbled together. I wasn't born at the time, but one year my sister opened all the Christmas presents, even the Christmas crackers because she was so impatient to find out who got what. Come Christmas morning when everyone was opening their presents she started crying because there were no surprises and she ruined Christmas for herself. I needed a cup for baseball during elementary school and the default one was too big and uncomfortable for my crotch. I proceeded to measure said region and report my findings to my mother so she could buy the appropriate sized nut protector for me to wear while playing catcher. Needed a cup for karate practice in 3rd grade. Was handed one by my instructor and told to change into it in the bathroom. Came out wearing it backwards, with the cup part on my ass. Guess I thought it was for emergency poops. I was playing around in our front yard when I was around 3 years old, while my parents were on the front porch reading the newspaper together. Off in the distance, they heard me say, "Here kitty kitty." Such a pretty kitty. At first they ignored me and just kept reading together. I guess thinking I was just using my imagination or something. Eventually, my mom glanced over at me and immediately proceeded to scream at me. I quickly dropped a dead possum, covered in ants, and began crying because my mom yelled at me. They got my eyes checked after that. There was nothing wrong with them. I was just a very confused 3-year-old. Oh god, I once found a dead rat and decided he needs to be mummified, so I found some string and wrapped him up. Mum came out to me entwining a dead rat in so much string. I also cried when she took it. When I was 3 or 4 my dad and I were in a barber shop. An elderly man, a friend of the family, was waiting for a haircut, and he and I were talking. I think I was sitting in his lap. He had a big nose with a wart on it. I suddenly said, "You got a nose like a witch." My dad says he could have crawled under a chair, but the old man just laughed and said, "I guess I do, don't I?" Was at the pharmacy when my oldest, 3 at the time, saw an ancient old man walk by. Very loudly he questions, "Why does his face look like that? Very wrinkly and sunken in." The man gets very close to my son's face and whispers, "This is what happens when you don't listen to your mommy." I used to live in a brand new neighborhood. I had a friend that lived nearby, and the fastest way to get to his house was to cut across this dirt lot behind my house. One time it was raining, and I decided I was gonna go chill with my friend. I ended up stuck knee deep in the mud, like, completely stuck. Lost a shoe, had to have my dad pull me out. Of course my parents have it on camera. Of course it gets played at least once every 5 years. Chewed on the drawstrings of my sweatpants and got them stuck between my teeth so my pants were pulled up towards my face. Our neighbor across the street had a cat called Smuckers. Great cat. I was around 4 and still learning how to pronounce stuff. My older cousins on my dad's side found out about this cat, and every chance they got, they'd say, "Peeves, what is the kitty's name?" and I'd happily tell Suckers. I'm 23 and some of them are married with children now, but we still laugh at it. When learning to ride a bike I insisted on only going downhill with the wind behind me. Now if I do anything my parents will say, "Make sure you're going downhill with the wind behind you." Well, that's just adorable. Did you hear it in a movie or something? So my son was in Cub Scouts and was eager to become a Boy Scout. So he would come in all the time asking me what he needed to do to become a Boy Scout. One day out of frustration I tell him the joke that I heard as a kid: "How does a Cub Scout become a Boy Scout? He eats his first brownie." For those of you that don't know, a brownie is pre-Girl Scouts. Same idea as Cub Scouts. Well, that's the last I heard of it for a few weeks, and I forgot all about it. Then one night at a Cub Scout meeting with several different troops present, the head person asked the crowd if anyone knew what they had to do to become a Boy Scout. Well, most of them have that deer stuck in headlights look going on, but not my son. He is waving his hand in the air like a madman. They call him up and says to 100 parents, kids, and troop leaders, "My daddy told me all I had to do is eat a brownie to become a Boy Scout." Funniest memory with my son. My mom was driving somewhere with my little brother and I in the back seat. I was maybe 5, which would have made him around 3 or 4. We were chattering with each other and she'd kind of just tuned us out to drive. At some point she heard something though that made her tune back in. Okay, hold real still. At that point it dawned on her what we had been discussing. She swerved the car over to the side of the road, turned, and screamed "NOOO." I had a hammer swung back, ready to knock all of my baby brother's teeth out as he eagerly bared them for me. My dad had left a hammer under the seat of the car and I'd found it and somehow convinced my brother to let me knock all of his teeth out for tooth fairy money so that we could be rich. I guess your mom didn't value money very much. Once when I was young, a business buddy of my dad visited our house. He told me my dad was his boss, so naturally I replied I'm the boss of my own poopy. I'm glad I don't remember who it was, but he no doubt remembers me. I lived in a very small town growing up, so my parents gave me a good amount of freedom at a young age. Everyone in the town knew everybody and starting around age 4-5 I would ride my bike everywhere. Baseball park, candy store, town park, barber shop, etc. I particularly loved going to get my hair cut since the barber shop was a classic guy's guy place where it was always the same 6 men working. 5 Italian guys from the same family and 1 Portuguese guy who was their friend. I would just go in and sit down and my dad would pay for it the next time he went in for a cut. For some reason, young me hated getting my hair cut by the Portuguese guy, Tony. Not sure if it was because he was rough with the clippers or if I just didn't think he was as funny as the rest of them. But whatever it was, I would wait an extra 20 minutes to avoid him. This particular time I went in, Tony was heck bent on getting me in his chair. He offered me candy, a free cut, even offered to sing to me, but none of his attempts caught my interest until he told me Ryborg 22, sit down and tell me whatever you would like. You sit in the seat and you're the boss. I clarify, I sit in that seat and I become your boss. Tony, you're the boss. Just take a seat. Me, I'm the boss. Tony, you the boss. Me, I am the boss. Tony, you, the boss. Me, hops in his seat. Alright, you are fired. Gets right out of his seat. The entire barber shop took a minute pause for laughter and Tony was standing there cursing in Portuguese, slapping his towel on the empty seat. My dad came in a week later and reports another immediate burst of laughter when he walked in on them struggling to get the story out with all of the chuckles. They did not charge him for the cut I got that day. My parents always talk about the time they got my brother his new bike when he was about 10. He had only ever ridden BMX style bikes with kick brakes. His new bike had hand brakes. We took a trip to Yosemite and he went down a hill, built up speed and panicked. He forgot how to use the brakes and slammed into a UPS truck at full tilt. It was hilarious to my parents because he was okay, but the UPS guy was super confused about what hit him. When he finally understood what happened, he was cracking up. Basically every time my folks get a drink in them, they laugh about the time they and a UPS guy laughed at my brother for crashing his bike. I apparently left our apartment by myself and went to a nearby playground to frick around when I was 3. I did this all the time as a toddler as well. My mom asked our doctor what to do, and he told my mom that this isn't technical advice since it could be considered abuse, but to lock my door from the outside. It was better locking me in than having me possibly get hurt outside, which I totally understand. This is the cranky Cato. See comment below and tell him to calm down. When he feels better, he will bless you with great fortune. I hope you got your mind wrapped around these facts. What's your reaction, and do you also know an unsettling fact? Let us know in the comments. If you are new to the channel, you can subscribe. I upload new videos every day. Until then, check out another video if you like.